Okay, all right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for logging in. Uh, I do miss seeing faces, but it's okay. I get it that you may be in transit. Um, and if you can, do switch on the videos. It will be nice. We are a small group. Maybe we will likely be a small group. Few more may join in. So it'll be nice to just see you and interact with you as well. Um, My name is Gunjan. I am one of the co-founders of Agile Sattva Consulting. We founded Agile Sattva in 2015, Deepak and I, and primarily our work has been in the area of change and transformation using Agile as a methodology. Uh, Also leadership development. These are the two core areas of work for us. Very quickly, I come from a background in organization development, so bringing in the human aspect of change. And Deepak has had a long stint as an agile coach. Um, I think doing many stints, huh? Deepak, if I recall, you said you were one of the earlier adopters of agile, worked in agile teams as Scrum Master, then into management, managing programs and products. And then as an agile coach, and in 2015, starting Agile Sattva as a consulting. So good to have you here today, Deepak, and looking forward to this series of webinars. This is the first in the series. And let me also talk about Geetika, who is an associate consultant with Agile Sattva. And before joining Agile Sattva recently, Geetika's been in the world of software development and Agile for last 18 years. And I'm just gonna say a little bit more about her. And she's been in management and leadership and software engineering domains. I'm sorry, can you hear a lot of background noise?
No, we can't hear.
No?
Fine.
Okay, there's some event happening and
Yeah.
suddenly a lot of loud music came up. Okay. Um, yes, so Geetika has been in management, leadership, and software engineering domains, and extensive experience and expertise in these roles. Now she's transitioning into the role of an agile consultant. And in that role, she leverages a deep understanding of agile methodologies to work with organizations in optimizing their processes and achieving business objectives more efficiently. Geetika, very, very happy to have you part of Agile Sattva and part of this webinar series. Okay. As we were thinking about, this series, and since this is the first one, maybe I'll just take a few minutes to talk about it. And you've probably seen the poster, which is really, we started with looking at what do we most commonly hear when we go to organizations or organizations approach us for consulting around agile implementation. And we realize very often what we hear is that, people have different understandings of agile. And in organizations, that kind of becomes a bit of a problem because everybody understands it their own way, and then everybody then implements it or works with it in their own ways, which kind of reminded us of the story of the, six blind men and the elephant, which is why the webinar series is really to kind of try and see the elephant for what it is, the elephant, and not maybe like somebody saw it as a rope, part of it, somebody saw it as a snake or a wall or a pillar, like how agile may be seen by different people using it, right? Okay, this is what is agile. If you do scrum or stand-ups, then it is agile. Okay, or if you do retrospectives, then it is agile. Or within stand-ups, what do you do? So I think different people having different understanding, but the idea is to come to a common understanding of it, not to standardize it, but to, I think, understand it uh, and build some alignment there. So that's the objective. We will keep bringing these webinars once every 2 months. And picking up different topics on Agile. So we hope that, you will continue to join us. But this is the first one. And thank you then for joining. If you have questions, you can either write into chat or you can just raise hands as Deepak and Geetika are going through the discussion. And I will just keep an eye on, if I see a raised hand, Deepak, Geetika, I will kind of let you guys know. And yeah, we are a small group. Let's make it interactive. And we spend how much ever time we have, 90 minutes. We'll see how much time we need. We don't have to necessarily work with completing the 90 minutes. Yeah, but do feel free to ask questions anytime, share your perspectives as we go along. Okay, Deepak, over to you.
Thank you, Gunjan, for introducing both of us and also giving a bit of pretext to the series. Yeah, I think let me just share my screen. Just give me a moment. Can you all see the screen?
Yeah. And Deepak, maybe we can just do a quick round of intro for those who've joined.
Yeah,
so
I
that
think
we
that.
also know, who are there. Yes. Would you all just quickly like to introduce yourself? Your name, your association, and work with Agile, and what brings you to this webinar today? Any one of you can start.
Hi guys, I'm Dhanush. Am I audible?
Yes, Dhanush, we can hear you.
I'm Dhanush. I'm from Daimler Trucks Innovation Center, India. And what brings me to this webinar is that this is the first time I'll be working with Agile methodology. So I just want to learn more about it and put in like a little bit more than what is expected out of me. So thanks for having me.
I can go next. This is Manish. I work as a software engineer, and for the last 2 years, I've been part of, my work has been within the Agile methodology and sprints, scrums, retrospectives, all of these things. But I think it's been very much not a conscious kind of practice. Like it's just been part of work, and it's just something that everybody does. So I've also just kind of learned to use it. Um, but I'm hoping to kind of learn to understand what it is exactly and how to how to best use it and stuff like that. So that's me.
Hi, this is Sarana Kumar. So previously, I have total 2.3 years experience in software development. So I'm from DDSA and I'm new to the Agile methodology in this organization. So I'm recently joined to the DDSA.
Good to have you, Sarana Kumar. Done.
Maybe we can start and
Okay, I'm just going to share screen. Just give me a moment. Can you see the screen?
Yes, not yet. It is saying has started screen sharing.
It's not.
I can't see the.
Yeah, it's still not loaded properly.
1 second. Sorry.
We can.
Okay, now you can?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. need to put it on slide share mode.
It's
Deepak.
not in a slideshow.
It's not in a slideshow?
It's
Mhm.
not in a slideshow mode. Maybe you're sharing the wrong screen. Just check.
This one now?
This is better.
Yeah.
Full screen, right? Now full screen, you can see the slide, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, okay. So I'm juggling between two screens.
Yep.
Okay, good evening. So first of the series is Agile Antipatterns, and then Gitika will start, and then we'll keep adding what it means in Agile context, what are we meaning by anti-patterns and all of that, and then go into details of anti-patterns of Agile. So Gitika, you tell me when you want me to go to the next slide, okay?
Can we go to the next slide?
Yeah.
Thank you, Didi. Deepak. So, as Gunjan and Deepak have already mentioned about, so this is the first of its kind when we are starting the webinar series, and we are bringing Agile Antipatterns for you guys this time. Before we start into Agile Antipatterns, I would like to touch base on what are anti-patterns. So most of us are coming from engineering background. We have seen that there are common anti-patterns followed in every industry. So what are anti-patterns, first of all? So anti-patterns are some common practices or patterns in any development or our system architecture or any other areas of engineering that are considered ineffective, counterproductive, or outright harmful. And why do we see these anti-patterns happening? So they typically arise when developers try to solve some recurring problems in appropriate fashion, or deadline pressure, or a lack of understanding, or maybe they're following the outdated practices. So that brings that. So these anti-patterns are there in everything, in development. So in this session, we are trying to bring the anti-patterns in Agile. Deepak, next slide, please. So what are Agile anti-patterns? As the anti-pattern suggests, these are again some common pitfalls or dysfunctional practices that stops us to achieve or use the Agile to its 100% efficiency. Next point. And they deviate again from the Agile practices and values, which leads to inefficiencies. So we try to follow certain behaviors of Agile manifesto or practices or values, but due to lack of information or understanding, we try to do it in a inefficient manner, which leads to poor outcomes and frustrated employees. And it can be manifested in various forms. There are outdated processes which are followed. It's 1947 process which are being still followed from waterfall model, and they're brought back into Agile. Communication breakdowns. A team is working in Agile format, but everyone is working on their individual task. They are not looking as a team task or what is the deliverable task. And the last but not least is organizational behavior, where there are hierarchical issues, stakeholders not responsible for taking actions, etc., etc. Did you add?
Yeah. So what we really mean, what we in continuation to what Geetika is saying, Agile anti-patterns can manifest in saying in colloquial way, we say, oh, we're following Agile, but we're not seeing values. Yeah, we're not seeing any value of doing it. We are doing it for the sake of it. Yeah. So I think those are the indicators for us to say, okay, there are anti-patterns in the teams and organization.
The question to you guys, what anti-pattern do you see in your teams? I'm sure that you guys have also been following Agile in different forms. Now, maybe it's Scrum, Kanban, but what are the anti-patterns you guys are seeing? I mean, if you can, give one or two examples or seeing in your industry.
In your own teams, any examples that you see or experience? You don't have to be sure about the example. You can share your experience. Okay, we will share something and see if you can make relation and connection to it. And if you see you're making some connection to what we are saying, you can type in the chat, you can raise hand, and then we will stop and listen to you. It'll be good for us to get a sense of how it's making meaning for you. Yeah. Okay, so what are some of the common anti-patterns we see in Agile from our own experience working with organizations, being in organizations, working with teams, small and large? We've listed some. It's not an exhaustive list, okay, and it is a list to begin thinking about it. We've shared based on our experience, okay. First thing is we always think about Agile as Scrum. Yeah? That's the first anti-pattern, because Agile is a set of values and manifesto. It's a set of values and principles. But we think Agile as a framework. I think which is reduced to only Scrum framework. Do you relate to that? I can't see the video because I'm in the presentation mode. Just if any questions, Gunjan, Geetika, just alert me, okay? Yeah. How do we know that? We think for flow-based projects also we use Scrum, yeah? Whether it is flow or product development. What do we mean by flow? Flow-based projects are where we don't have fixed set of backlog, and the nature of the work is like service center. Yeah, you can't say I will do 10, I can do 10 car services today. I might have the capacity, but it depends on when the customer will bring. So from the time they bring till the time I finish my car service, that is the efficient, that's the flow, because it has sequence of steps to be carried by different people. And the goal there is to improve efficiency. Yeah? But we try to put Scrum there, yeah, and we can use different methods, but we try to do Scrum there, which will be force fitting. That's one of the common anti-patterns we see, okay? Status meetings are disguised as stand-up meetings. We all relate to that, right? In a stand-up meeting, we all share what we did, what we didn't do. We go round by round. We almost sometimes say to one person who is a scrum master or a manager. If manager is there, we report into them. But at the end of it, all of us don't know in the team that what should be done after this, after the stand-up meeting. Is it only my update? So some of the things we hear team members say is that, you know what, I don't have any update today, so why should I go to the stand-up? I have nothing to contribute. That's one of the common misunderstandings of what a stand-up meeting should be. Yeah, stand-up meetings are mostly strategy meetings to look at, okay, there is a goal that we have to do, sprint goal. Where are we with respect to sprint goal? It's an opportunity to collaborate to see how I can support another team member. Yeah. So we report to the manager. Each person updates their work. It's like throwing the ball into the well and no one catches if there are blockers, not blockers. Or if they share about blockers, it becomes Scrum Master or the manager's responsibility to fix it. Yeah? Then we also have common areas of planning. Like, we use capacity planning disguised as story points and relative estimation. There was a reason why relative estimation like story points was brought in. Planning poker was brought in. But we stick to capacity planning, which is by hours and days. Now, what we do is one of the common mistakes or wrong way of practicing this is by creating a formula where you say, okay, 1 day's effort is equal to 1 story point. Yeah, it defeats the whole purpose of relativity. It defeats the whole purpose of the logic of why relative estimation was brought in. Yeah, that's the biggest problem. Yeah, and then team leaders and managers do the estimation for the team. Yeah, because it's supposed to be collective team decisions so that we get the velocity at the end of the after few sprints. But we end up one person doing the estimate. We end up using capacity planning to do the estimate. So then it defeats the purpose of relative and self-organized planning. Yeah. And also this is a smart thing teams do, incomplete stories. When the scope they're not able to finish in a sprint, they have to move it to done. So whatever 10-20% of work that is left is moved as technical debt. The technical debt keeps building, but technical debt is not actually scope related tasks. It is really quality, or it could be for refactoring, or we saw some quality issues, coverage is not happening, so we'll do the coverage. Ideally, it should all be part of the definition of done, but incomplete stories cannot be moved to technical debt, or scope it, and that small scope will be moved to technical debt, just so that we can finish the stories. It's not a quality problem. Then waterfall in the disguise of sprints. How does it happen? Requirements are written component wise instead of functional. That means you will say, okay, backend team, this sprint will focus on, then front end team will focus on the next sprint, and so on and so forth, right? So it's really staggered approach like relay. But Agile is not talking about that. Its idea is that we get something that we can test quickly rather than late. By doing sprints, you don't become agile. You're just doing waterfall inside an agile team. Yeah. The next thing is sprints dedicated to specific task. Yeah. So design sprint is there, development sprint is there, testing sprint is there. Again, this is all waterfall way of doing it. Yeah. And then you just disguise it as agile just because you're calling it a sprint. Yeah. And then anti-patterns at retrospectives. Yeah, retrospectives are a place to reflect on, okay, how did we achieve what we had to achieve? Why couldn't we achieve? More than looking at what we achieved. Yeah. Instead of reviewing what was done or not done, we look at, okay, what we did and what we did. So mostly, sorry, instead of reviewing or reflecting on how we worked as a team, we focus on reviewing the tasks that was done. Or sometimes retrospectives are not done at all, or retrospectives are done like review meetings, like feedback giving meetings, yeah, which is not the objective of retrospective. Yeah. Let me pause here and see if you have any questions. Are you able to relate to these? Anything that's not making sense to you, or you have a question to ask? Very happy to.
So I had two things, Deepak. One is my own kind of relation to what anti-patterns were in my team, what I have seen. So I was thinking it in terms of uh, breaking the agile uh, flow in a way, just to have the output that you wanted to give. So what would happen, what I've seen happen is, let's say we've divided work into different sprints, and then you have one kind of functional requirement that is there, but it's just like almost just a few days more than what that sprint, the work that is required is like a couple of days more than that sprint's work, so you can complete. So what usually happens is, and I see that almost a lot of the times, it just spills into the next sprint. So you have a lot of the team working on the last day of the sprint, the first day of the new sprint, second day of the new sprint, on stuff that was there in the previous sprints, and not part of the new sprint. So there's almost like that delay that keeps happening in the pattern, like in the sprint pattern at least.
Yeah, you're right, Manish. And there are couple of ways we can understand why. And it is a very classic anti-pattern, what you're saying. The spillovers happen for Many reasons. One is because we don't know how much we can as a team deliver, because we don't have the velocity of the team of every sprint, right? So we can't plan. Why? Because we stick to absolute planning, or we have a gut feeling, or we don't do estimates, or we don't do estimate collectively. We may have a velocity, but we don't do it together. We don't get everybody's perspective. That's one thing. Then the second part is also slicing of the stories or the requirements. Yeah, it's not functionally sliced. Even if it is functionally sliced, it's not small enough that can fit in within a sprint. The idea of sprint is that we get something that we can test outside at the end of the sprint. Yeah, get a feel of it. Once a while, of course, some requirements cannot be done within the sprint. Once a while, spillover is fine, but if it's repeated, we need to understand why. Is it because the requirements are not sliced functionally, or is it too big, or the estimates we are overly committing? And as an impact, are we saying we will start the sprint after 2 days of extending the sprint? We extend the sprint. Yeah, and that defeats again the purpose of doing time box. It's like a heart rhythm. You can't change the rhythm. You won't get the data, right? If you take an ECG for teams of that, like of the teams, then you get like, it feels like the heart is going erratic and having a heart attack. That's why we call these are all rhythm of Scrum that we need to follow. Yeah. Another important part that we think about is we add a psychological meaning to completion of sprint. We look at it as success and failure. Yeah, we need to start moving away from what is success and what is failure. So the psychological meaning of completing the stories or at the finish of the sprint has also influenced in the spillovers and extending the sprint and these anti-patterns getting created, because it involves judgment. Yeah, so that's also very classic anti-pattern. That was a good example. Anybody else want to share their example or have a question? I don't know if any chat has come up. Okay, we are hoping it's making sense to you, and we will keep continuing. Geetika, Gunjan, you want to add anything at this point?
Yeah, good.
No, I'm good. I'm also thinking maybe I think Dhanush said, and just starting agile, working in agile teams. So that also maybe they're just looking at,
Yeah.
Trying to understand. Sometimes, when we're just starting, we also are figuring out something. So yeah.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
And that's absolutely okay. We hope still that this kind of gives you some sense of what not to do. If you see your agile teams that you're part of working, and you can then maybe see some of these anti-patterns as you begin your work with agile teams. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm able to relate a little bit to what I've learned till now. So yeah, hope I can learn a little bit more.
Yeah. Sure. I think that's a good point. What you said, Gunjan, sometimes in the beginning to have this frame is helpful, even when you're trying to, you may not have an experience as yet, but when you're seeing your teams doing and working in a certain way, you can quickly think about what not to do. And no pressure, okay? We are not putting you on the spot. There's no pressure for you to share. We just want you to be engaging and seeing if it's making sense to you. Yeah. Okay. Why do anti-patterns? Okay, we understand these are common patterns, right? We can go on talking about it, and we can list a lot of anti-patterns that happens. But why? We have to understand why what's happening. Okay, some of our work is also to understand why certain behaviors are done in organizations, and we look at different lens, and we'll share a little bit about how we think, and it influences our way of understanding the reasons of why anti-patterns of agile occur in organizations. Yeah. First is change is difficult. Yeah, and hence resistance to change. We all want to change, right? Like I want to tone down and reduce weight and be healthy and eat healthy and all that. Um, and yet I find it difficult to do something about it, right? So it is a change is a difficult process. It's not easy. Yeah, we need to be clear about why I have to do. I have to keep going back and asking myself, why do I want to reduce weight? Why do I want to tone down? So if until I don't know why, I'm not sure if I will be fully enrolled into it without any resistance. So you can look at your own examples, your own life experiences. When you have changed something, has it been easy? Has it been difficult? So to premise that when we are working in certain way, to move it to a different way of working is challenging. Yeah. Then we have existing unconscious mental model. But what do we mean by unconscious? Something that is not in our conscious mind. Yeah. If I ask, we are all, as human beings and systems, we are all beings of patterns and unconscious patterns. Yeah, we've developed over a period of time based on multiple things, based on our own value system, based on our own belief systems, based on our own life experiences. Yeah, and as we do that, when we enter organizations, and organizations has history by the founders, by the leaders, and there is a mental model that gets created in the organization about how we do things, how we work with each other. Yeah, how we see leadership, how we see peers, what do we mean by hierarchy? So there are mental models of hierarchy which influence in the end, in the occurring of or building of patterns. Yeah, there is command and control, because the command and control is a very production unit based mental model of management. Yeah, there is a reason why it was done like that. If you go back to work was counted in man hours, and we still use it. Man hours is a borrowed idea which was relevant for production era, where we could count. If I was making this box for the ceramic mug, I knew exactly for as one person how many box I can make in 1 hour. Yeah, if you also do that with me, I can exactly train you to be efficient like me. Yeah, so that man hours was the idea, and then I have to tell you exactly how much you do, and I can do through command and control, so that I know how to maximize production. But today also we use, and we've moved from production era to a knowledge and data era, creative era. Yeah, we are moving into AI era, which is so different, right? I'm not just creating boxes for the ceramic mugs. I'm writing code which is so creative. I can't stop thinking about it as soon as I step out of the office. Sometimes my solutions to I used to work in Nokia for last part of my work with Nokia was improving the efficiency of display, and it's troubleshooting multiple layers of hard firmware, right? And some of my ideas would come when I'm sleeping, and then I suddenly wake up and say, oh, okay, that would happen. Or when I'm out for a walk, because I'm so caught up in the program and logs and seeing why it's not something I'm missing, and I suddenly go out and get. So we are in the creative era which uses thinking, so that we still use the same model of working, yeah, which is of production era. And more importance is given to individuals over teams. Yeah, like my intention, my achievement, my growth, yeah, and what I do is more important over what we do as team, because we fear of invisibility, that I won't be recognized. I won't be seen as the superstar. Yeah. Or if somebody is seen as a superstar, why should I contribute anyway? Yeah. So all of these are mental models of being seen, how we are in groups, how we work with each other, our own family systems of favorite child and favorite brother and favorite mother, and all of that. These are all mental models that we call come with in organizations. Yeah. And This can be influenced by leadership. This can be influenced by cultures. This can be influenced by founders and the context we are in. This is not conscious. We're not telling it's a conscious thing. Somebody is doing it intentionally. It is happening because it's unconscious. It's not available to our conscious mind. Yeah. Sometimes we say, right, I don't know why I keep doing these things. Yeah. And that's unconscious. Why? There's a reason if we explore. Yeah? And a lot of our work as Agile Sattva is focusing on these unconscious ways which stop us from being an agile, self-organized team. Okay. Then, sorry, I have to switch between. Okay. Then one of the biggest thing, one of the another major factor is frameworks drive the agile implementation. Yeah, we know when somebody wants to go agile, what we do? We take Scrum framework and implement it, or we take Safe and implement it, or we take Kanban and implement it. Although Kanban is very rarely used. Then what we say? We say sprint planning. We try to do estimation through planning poker, but do hours. So if we ask why you're doing it, because Scrum says, or Safe says, or Agile says, even worse, right? So frameworks drive the agile transformation. Yeah, that's another major factor. Do we all relate to it in some way or the other? That we rely on why we're doing it because Agile says like this, or Scrum, we say it in Scrum, or Scrum Master should organize the meeting. So unless Scrum Master organizes it, I won't show up. Yeah, whose responsibility, if you ask in your own teams of driving the stand-up, we will have either product manager or either we'll say Scrum Master or manager. We will think it's somebody else's job. Why? Because it's misunderstood. And we think we have to do it in certain way because frameworks say it so. Yeah? And there is lack of alignment. One of the first lack of alignment is there is no clarity, lack of clarity in why Agile and its outcome. Some people may have it, but not everybody will have what's the value, what's the return on investment on doing Agile or going Agile as a team for us in this organization. What value are we getting? Why are we doing Agile? Yeah, we want to do Agile. Is it only because every other team is doing it or other competitors are doing it? We had worked with an organization, a small organization in an industry of education, and we asked them why you want to do, because they said, of course it's industry, right? Everybody is going Agile. Yeah, but that's not that's a good start to begin. I mean, have conversation, but we need to start understanding why you want to go Agile. What is your understanding? What's the return on investment for you when you go Agile, right? That's the first part on Agile and outcome of Agile. The second part is itself on the goals of the team, sprint, or organization. Could be any level, right? You can see that many of your team members may not fully keep the goal of the sprint in mind, right? Or goal of the team in mind. We all are thinking about my task and my story. I'm only focused on my story and finishing that. I'm not thinking about there are 5 stories we have committed. All 5 stories are to be finished as a sprint. Yeah. Or sometimes we have interdependency in 2 teams and then it doesn't have the same priority. Yeah. Then there's a problem there as well. The priorities are not aligned. Yeah, so people are left to their own judgment of what is important, and everybody has their own view of what is important with good intention, but nobody contains it together and says, okay, this is the important part and do this and focus this. This is required for the product, right? That's the lack of alignment. And other part which also causes it is organization structures and policies. And when we say organization structures are how the organization is structured. What are some of the processes there? What are roles there? Who reports into who? Yeah, how is this team constituted? What competencies are required? And how do you form the team? Yeah, is it functionally or is it cross-functionally? All of it is organization structures and policies. Yeah. So, and performance management, right? Like if you say, if I'm doing performance management at appraisals of individual achievement, and then I ask you to collaborate, there is no motivation for you to collaborate. It's psychological motivation. There's no motivation, right? Because you want to be answerable during the appraisals. You want to show how much you did. If you say I contributed to a team, you don't have a differentiating factor to explain. So the focus on performance appraisals and conversations on individual tasks. That's the policy. That's how appraisals are done. If organizations don't focus on group achievement and only focus on individual, and that contributes to the salary hikes and feedback, then there is less motivation for people to collaborate. And then we have there's encouragement of stardom culture, where we say, okay, he or she are the superstars of the team. And when we say that, we may not be disrespectful to others, but we are psychologically saying that others are not good enough, right? Are not as good as them, which maybe we may have different competencies and we may be better at some competencies, but we continuously focus on individuals' appreciation, then we lose an opportunity to keep the team in focus. And then we can't ask team to collaborate, right? If you're getting appreciated, why should I anyway help you? Because at the end, only you will get appreciated. That's one way of thinking that can happen. The other way of thinking is, okay, I am getting appreciated. I have to keep the status quo, right, of my appreciation. So I will keep trying to be the star. So I will try to compete. So you will create competition which may not be healthy. That's the key part of this. Then overlapping roles that creates ambiguity, right? Sometimes we have program manager, we have a product manager. We don't know who's going to set the priority. We have a manager, we have a scrum master. Who should we listen to? Clarity of what their role is supposed to do, or who will report to whom for what, or even priorities, right? Common problems we face is who is setting the priority. Product should set the priority, but why is manager telling us to do something else, right? And then we are caught as team members being loyal to managers or the manager or the scrum master or the product manager, right? So product manager, product owner. So then that becomes chaotic. And sometimes even managers don't have clarity on whether it's their realm or is it their scope or not to set priorities. I'm just taking one example of priorities. There are many ways it can show up. I'm just giving one example of overlapping roles. Just a second. Then competing priorities. Yeah, like I was saying, that two teams are interdependent with each other. Both of them don't have aligned priorities. I want this from you. I want API from you. I'm waiting for that. But that API request is not priority for that team. But there is nobody to hold those two priorities and say this has to happen first and second. Then there is cross-team fight. Same thing can happen within the team. Yeah. If I have 5 priorities and we have a conflict, I'm a backend developer, you're a front-end developer. I have 2 tasks that I have to do for backend, but I don't know which is important, right? All 5 are taken in the sprint, but somebody has to help me do the priority for it. Yeah. So it can be competing priorities. All of it is an interrelated, different manifestation of it. Yeah.
Deepak, I was just thinking, very often when we get a request for an intervention with teams is really saying, we are doing agile, teams are not collaborating, or people don't take ownership. I mean, these two are real commonly held or commonly heard problems, right, for which teams struggle. And I think what you're saying is really this, maybe this competing priorities, and it's not that people don't want to collaborate.
Yeah.
Or they don't want to take ownership of doing work, because we all want to, work.
Yeah.
But it's these things like lack of, clarity of priorities or competing priorities or roles which are not quite clear, that shows up as teams not collaborating. And then it becomes more like people are not doing what they should do, which is to collaborate and take ownership. Whereas I think it's more fundamental than that, why that collaboration doesn't happen. I think that's what you're talking about here.
Exactly. I mean, thanks for adding that bit, because in our experience, I think, I mean, we can quite confidently say that very, very marginal percentage of people we have seen who didn't want to work, right? That's negligible. But many of them want to do work, are invested in doing work, enjoy creating something or contributing to the organization. What stops is all of this. Many of the times when we say, okay, I didn't know I'm supposed to do this, right? Yeah, my job description is there, okay, as a software developer 3 or senior software engineer. But what it entails for me in this team, I don't know. My scope of what I can do or what I can't do. Because there's also fear of being reprimanded, right? If something goes wrong, will I be held responsible? Then why will I take ownership? Right? So the safety, the clarity of my role, and priority, the fundamental parts, yeah, whether we do agile or not agile, all of that will contribute. Sorry. Any questions? Anything you want to share as we shared? Are you able to relate to some examples, something of your own experience, or any questions? You can even type in the chat. Okay. So we understand what are some of the agile anti-patterns. Then we understand why it occurs. Now, what can we do about it, right? That's the last part of what we want to present to you. Mitigating anti-patterns, yeah? We need to be open to exploring the conscious and unconscious dynamics that come in the way. To believe that there is both conscious and unconscious. I might not like you, but beyond that, there is something that's happening in the team that we both get into fight and stop our work together. We can't work together, right? To understand that, to understand what are mental models that is coming in the way. Yeah, if I keep my mental model as hierarchy, that manager is right all the time, then I will behave like that in the team, right? Or seniors are not to be questioned. If I come from a mental model of family system, right? And elders or senior people cannot be questioned. If I come with that, which is not in my conscious mind, I will do the same thing here. So if I am asked an opinion, I will go with the flow of what the seniors will say, right? So open to exploring all of that. First is recognizing the resistance to change and its underlying reasons. Like, what is resistance? What is this resistance? What is the nature of resistance? Why it is happening? Yeah, for me, for example, why do I want to reduce weight? Or why do I want to tone down? I don't know if I have fully the answer for it. Maybe that's why I'm resisting it. Yeah. If I have an understanding of it, it's easier.
I'm just going back to your first point, Deepak, about the hierarchies or our mental models. I think in some of our work, a common thing we also hear is that people don't escalate on time. I know at the end of the sprint that there's going to be a delay. It ought not to be like that. And I guess that's also an anti-pattern of sorts, right? That we don't talk about it. And I think that comes because we don't want to be the messengers of bad news, or we will be seen as people who didn't do their jobs, or we are just scared of authority, which stops us from raising things when they need to be raised, which obviously then comes in the way of doing the work more effectively.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. And I will let it go, and last minute everybody will panic. So it's like then I will be even more scared. Yeah, and I will try to hide myself, or I'll try to defend by all reasons. Like biggest mystery I think if we can solve is testing team saying this is not working, and development saying, on my desk it worked. Right? How come? Because there's nobody picking it up. And I think it's so commonly used and it's still relevant. I've been working, what, 2 decades, and I can still hear it, even as recent as a month back when I was working with the teams, right? Why? Because we don't think about finding the problem and telling, because how do I say something I've done is wrong, right? Again, mental model of keeping everything in the family together. We will defend, as development team will defend against the team, testing team. They're like the enemies for us. We have to protect. And testing team's only mandate is to break the product, not see how functional it is, and prioritize it. Everybody, everything can become P1. Yeah. So really exploring this is the value in understanding what comes in the way of being agile team. Um, Building alignment by asking why agile. Okay, first is why agile, why now? Yeah, and what do you want to achieve from this? Even as a team member, you can ask this. Actually, we were working on an assignment few months back, and one of the teams, we would go, we would attend their stand-ups and then give them feedback. And me and Geetika would feel like they want us to get out of the room, every time. Every time we do that. Um, and actually, we stopped at one point and asked him, do you know why we are here? He said, we don't know. I mean, you come and yeah, we are told that you're an agile coach, you'll help, but we don't know actually what is the help that we need. We think we're doing better, which to an extent they were doing okay. There were problems were not within so much within the team. But if they don't understand agile, what's the value they need? And if we don't understand, we can keep hitting the wall, right? That's the first question to ask. What's the value that I'm going to get? Even if we don't know fully, that's okay. But we all know that we don't know what exact value we will get. We'll not simply keep saying that, okay, we're doing agile with no value. Yeah.
Actually, this is quite a resistance, no?
Yeah.
One of the reasons why really agile doesn't work in organizations is because people truly don't understand why are we doing this. It feels like a waste of time. For example, retrospectives or stand-ups themselves feel like,
Yeah.
they just come in the way. I have so many other things to do. Now I have to do this as well. Because we really don't fully understand what is it that we want to achieve as a team, other than saying we work, as an agile team, which is somehow seen as a glamorous thing to do. Beyond the glamour, it requires certain practices, um, which require us to work in a certain way, think in a certain way, change our behaviors. But I can only do that if I know what's the value, why are we doing this? I think, and I'm just thinking that, yeah, I think very often why teams don't do all this or don't follow agile practices is because they don't understand why they should do it.
And I think in continuation to this, right? I mean, at the risk of being generic, it's not always the case. When there are problems in the team, when the productivity is not there, then leadership also feels scared, and they don't want to explore the deeper meanings of why what's happening. They know something is happening, but because agile is saying you will get value and blah blah blah, all of it, right? So leadership also will get people to do agile in the hope that these things will solve. Like I said, implementing an agile process will not solve these problems, because these are problems that are existing with or without agile, right? So the anxiety of, oh, something is not working, makes people to do agile, I think, and some bit of trend, and because everybody is there, I'll catch up to the thing, and not knowing exactly what I want. And for that I have to be involved. So agile is also another part we'll talk about, is also holistic. It's not just implementing a framework. One second. So choosing right framework for nature of the work. Yeah, like looking at whether it is a flow-based work, whether yours is a flow-based work or a product work, like creating something. You have enough backlog, you know you have to deliver in iterations, or is it just like a ticket? It has a workflow. You know, to understand the nature of the work and use the right framework to work. Otherwise, we'll just keep force fitting. If I'm hungry, I can't drink water. I mean, I can drink water. Maybe if I'm thirsty, I can't eat food. That doesn't quench my thirst, right? But we keep eating food in the hope that it will solve, but it will not. I'll get maybe more stomach cramps and yeah, all of that bit, right? So really to understand the nature of the work is very key part on deciding what framework to use. Yeah. Taking holistic approach to agile, right? It's not just framework. It's not saying let's teams do scrum. It's not just that. Most often we think agile is for teams and just do it for them. But agile is also about bringing clarity in many aspects of collaboration, in the structure of how the teams are structured, how interdependencies work, how what process is only one part of it, right? Then what type of a culture that needs to be built, leadership's involvement in doing it. If clarity is not there between two roles, okay, senior software engineer and a software engineer is there, we don't know how they will collaborate or what's the scope of their decision making, or team lead versus manager, then they have to get involved in clarifying it. We can't just let the team figure out that all these things by themselves, right? And policies, like one of the teams we had worked with, they will be rated by, the performance will be rated by number of Jira tickets they've worked on in that quarter or a year, right? And then they want the team to be agile. And that was our first highlight. The policy is like this, your performance appraisal policy is this. It will not add, if you don't change that, or if you don't talk about how to work around that, and not look at it as collective output, you will not have a self-organizing team to work efficiently, right? Because policies also impact how you work as an agile team. Okay. We spoke about role clarity to bring in clarity, involve relevant stakeholders to bring clarity, and help the teams know what they should do, when they should do, what is the scope of their engagement. Foster agile values. Agile has 4 values. If you don't know, agile is based on a manifesto, an agile manifesto, and there are 4 values and 12 principles. And 4 values are, first one is focusing more on fostering interactions within the team over just following the process. Yeah. Then fostering collaboration with the stakeholders, customers, management, leadership, all of it being transparent over negotiation of contracts, or this is not my job, or sticking to my mandate. Yeah. Then focus on delivering something that's usable, yeah, than just documentation of reports and collaterals. Mostly on developing a software, developing something that can be used. That's why sprints, at the end of the sprint, I need to see something. At the end of a cycle of the flow, I need to see something, right? And responding to dynamic nature of the market, the change, be able to prioritize, reduce the scope, enlarge the scope, all of that, right? So it's very important to foster that values. And how do you do that? Simple question I think is useful is everything that I do, every action I take as a manager, as a team member, as a scrum master, is it taking me closer to the self-organization, taking us as a team closer to the self-organization or away? Yeah. If I have to raise a blocker, yeah, if I raise it today, will it help us as a team to figure out a plan B, or should I wait till the sprint end? Anyway, this is not going to finish. So which action will take us as a team closer to self-organizing? That's the key part. You can ask within your team for yourself, yeah, and start defining goals for teams and sprint, and keep that as the focus throughout. Yeah, whatever you have as a focus. If in a flow way, reducing turnaround time is your focus, then that will be the focus for all of you. That means it will not just happen by one team doing it, one person doing it. Oh, in the flow, testing person is overloaded. That doesn't mean it's that person's responsibility. You need to see why that person is overloaded by looking at the previous steps. Yeah. So it needs to be collective goal is what I'm highlighting. Yeah, not individual goal. Then in stand-ups, focus on sprint goals and term goals. Now you have the goal, you be clear on the goal. And then now focus on strategies to achieve it. Okay, every day is a strategy meeting. And Scrum comes from a rugby word. Okay, when rugby people come together during the timeout, to strategize. They don't come and say, oh, you did this, I did this. No, they're going to come and say, now we have this much time left. From now on, how can we achieve what we want? That's called huddle, right? So they come together and talk. You've seen in many sports coming together. They're not reporting the status. They're really re-strategizing the next part of the game with the sole intention of winning. Their focus is winning. Yeah. Like here, doesn't matter what is the what is the reason in our daily sprints or daily work. The focus is how do we get maximum outcome as a team. Yeah. And build a culture of appreciating teams, not just individuals. We're not saying don't appreciate individuals at all. Of course, there will be different competencies we all bring in. So it needs valid appreciation. And along with it, also to see how team has contributed to building something together. Yeah, focusing as a team to appreciate. If you're a team member, see how as a team you can build that culture within. Yeah. These are some of the ways, is again, not an exhaustive list. It's just to give you some indication of how to start thinking about being an agile team. I'm going to pause and stop the screen share. So to see, we have some time. Any questions? Any examples you want to share? Yeah.
I have a question. Deepak, if you would, as a coach or as a manager or a leader, if you identified some sort of a conscious and unconscious dynamic, right, that we talked about, which is hurting the team, but at the same time, of course, there might be a resistance to change. How do you go about bringing that change? Is it, like I wanted to understand that a little bit more. I think you talked about identifying what's behind it, things like that.
If we identify it, if I'm a manager or a coach, if I identify it, I also present it back to the team and engage. I might have a sense of it. I might have one meaning of it. But in making it a collaborative exercise to understand this understand this resistance. That's a key part if you're a team member. As a coach, we would also create that environment to explore that. We will present our idea of what is happening. But if you're as a part of the team to collaboratively think about, okay, what is really happening? Why it's happening? Is it because of competition? Is it because we are not clear about something? Are we not aligned? And make it a safe exercise without blame. I think some bit of creating safety within the team to say, okay, we are exploring with an intention to become better. What is that better you need to first arrive at? So all of this hypothesis or all of these reasons we are saying has an objective attached to it, right? That's why we are trying to explore. Okay, there's an objective that we've identified. We have to maybe be bug free, 10% reduce the bugs by end of the year, right? Now with that objective, we are seeing something is not happening. For that, we think agile is going to help. Now, when people are resisting for that, then we can say, you know what, this is the reason why we want to do agile. Let's understand what could be happening below that. What could be happening to us? Why are we not? What else? What other ways that you think is important? If not agile, what are the other ways we can address this? So see, there's some of the things I think I would encourage.
I just want to kind of summarize it or make it like being from what I have understood, I'm not the agile expert, but having worked now with Deepak on this for last 7-8 years, I think retrospectives are the place to have these conversations. So Agile actually has an inbuilt mechanism for having these conversations. The problem is what we were talking about earlier, right? That an anti-pattern that develops is that we use retrospectives as a review meeting of what happened rather than why it happened this way. We may review and say, okay, you know what, out of 4 sprints, 3 we didn't complete the sprint goal, or we don't use retrospectives to also question why. Why is that happening? I think that important. So Manish, a short answer to that would be that retrospectives need not be just about the content or what of what we are doing, but retrospectives truly become retrospectives if we use them also to talk about how are we working with each other, why is what is happening. Then you derive the true value of a retrospective. And Agile has a fantastic practice for having these conversations in a team and therefore creating a culture of openness, giving feedback to each other, confronting each other. We don't do that. We shy away from it. We don't give feedback. We feel like my relationship will be spoiled if I say something to a team member. But if we create that culture in a team, that's what we want to do as a agile team, right?
Yeah, that's a good point, Gunjan. Okay, is there anything else, Nutan, Danush, Sarvanan, you want to add? Manish, if you have more questions.
Or even your reflections on how you may want to think about these anti-patterns or what you may want to do in your own work, knowing this.
I don't think I have much to add right now, but once I start working with this agile methodology, maybe I can pitch in a few more. But I'm able to relate till now what I have understood from the work culture at my place. I have understood like they are following few things to avoid these anti-patterns in my organization. They are following a lot of things to avoid these anti-patterns, and I think that's how they are functioning completely like a proper team. So it's I think it's a good start for me to have joined in this what to say this in this session. So I understood like what are anti-patterns and how my team is avoiding those. So thanks guys, thanks for the session.
Okay. It'll be great if you can leave your email IDs so we can send information about this video. Also will be uploaded on YouTube on our channel, and you can have access to it. What we also want to do is we want to get different perspectives of people in other series. We'll talk about that in a while. Just let me wait if Sarvanan and Manish and Nutan has anything to share. And somebody joined and left.
I just had some reflections. I think as we went through, I think mainly a couple of things came up. One is one I realized a lot of the Andy part in that we talked about. It was a little far away from me from my understanding of the team, which is good because mostly I think I came into like an org which fully has already had agile, and it's not something that we just started adopting. But also I think a lot of kind of feedback loop things like we talked about how retrospectives are used. All of these have been in a way done in the correct way. So there was a lot of space for talk and feedback and things to change. But what I also saw was some of the pitfalls, but having that were there initially or almost kind of ran as an experiment. So like you talked about Deepak, there was, I remember a year ago or something, suddenly our manager came in and defined, okay, 3 hours of work to 1 day of work is one sprint story point, and this month this to this is two, this to this is three. But then I also, although that happened for a few sprints, but in the end it was stopped. But of course, I don't know why it was stopped, but I can kind of understand at least people are understanding or are taking feedback and realizing, okay, this is not working. We need to look at it a little differently. We need to talk about team goals and things like that. So I think those are really two good points. But I also mentioned one of the anti-patterns that I myself see. And I think what Gunjan also said about feedback, giving feedback to other people, right? I think I see a lot of positive kind of good feedback kind of coming out in retrospectives, but not kind of action items within the team. It's easy for us to talk about action items for other teams or other processes that are happening. But for people, when you have relationships, it's never really actually called out. So those are things to kind of take back and see how it can be different, possibly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Maybe good time for us to stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining in. It's first of the series. I think we are also figuring out how to reach it out to more people and have more people join in. But the intent is to continue to offer these series, and it's okay if it is smaller groups. The idea is we just offer, interact, and build together. So thank you, those of you who joined, and Deepak and Geetika, thank you so much
Thank you.
for offering this, sharing this, yeah, and look forward to the next one.
Yes, thank you, Gunjan, for holding the space and keeping the structure together. Thank you. And it was really good experience for us to just share and then engage. Okay, see you in the next
Yes,
webinar.
yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye, Mani.
Thank you all three of you.